Good afternoon and welcome to the August 2023 Pitt County DSS Board meeting. I would like to call the meeting to order. Let's start by first observing a moment of silence. Thank you. Do we have any public comments?
No, sir.
Do we have any changes to the agenda?
Not that I'm aware. None that have been brought to my attention.
Okay. Can I have a motion to accept today's agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. You all should have minutes of the previous meetings. Is there any changes to the previous meeting minutes? If not, can I have a motion to approve last month's minutes?
I make a motion to approve last month's minutes.
Second.
Thank you. All right, this time we're going to have recognition of new hires and retirees.
Sorry. Let's start with our new hires. When I call your name, if you please walk up to the podium, adjust the microphone, and just introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and just so that we can welcome you to Pitt County. Is it Hire Watts?
Heather.
Heather, okay. Missing the T. Welcome, Heather.
So my name is Heather Watts. I'm originally from Dare County Social Services, now with Pitt County Social Services in adult Medicaid intake.
Welcome.
Wow, it's a long way from home, Dare County.
Just a little bit.
Glad to have you.
Welcome.
So Lisa Morgan?
Hi, I'm Celisa Morgan. I'm here working adult Medicaid intake here at Pitt County DSS, originally from Morton County DSS.
It's not too far away.
Not too far.
Welcome to Pitt County.
Welcome.
Thank
Welcome.
you.
Glad you're here.
Kira Lyles?
My name is Kira Lyles. I'm a social worker 3, and I work in permanency planning unit, and I come from Franklin, Virginia Social Services.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And Sadie Sharp? Come on up, Sadie. Don't be shy.
Hi, my name is Sade Sharp. I came from Edgecombe County Department of Social Services. I am now at Pitt County Department of Social Services in the Child Care Unit.
Wonderful.
All right, welcome aboard.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. So we need to call Margaretta Howard up to the front. Come on. So before I start this, I just want to say a few words. So Margaretta has worked for Pitt County for 31 years. She has been a dedicated and loyal member of the team, and she gives, if there was ever anything, is 2 million % every day she does. So while I'm very happy for her, I'm very sad for Pitt County that she's retiring. So, on the occasion of her retirement for Margaretta M. Howard, whereas we are here today to express special recognition to Margaretta M. Howard and to honor her for her distinguished 31-year career with Pitt County Department of Social Services. And whereas Margaretta began her career on July 6, 1992 as a clerk typist 3. On March 14, 1993, she was promoted to an income maintenance caseworker 1. Margaretta was promoted to an income maintenance caseworker 2 on March 27, 1994, and to an income maintenance 3 on July 1st, 20 2007. On July 9th, 2011, Margaretta was promoted to an income supervisor 2, and finally on August 2nd, 2015, she was promoted to the position of income maintenance 3 supervisor, redetermination program manager, until her upcoming retirement on August 31st, 2023. And whereas Margaretta has proven herself to be a valuable asset to Pitt County Department of Social Services with a vast knowledge of the department's policy, procedures, and a respected leader in the redetermination unit. And whereas Margaretta has worked constantly for the betterment of children, adults, families of Pitt County Department of Social Services and the community. And whereas the Pitt County Department of Social Services wishes to express its sincere appreciation to Margaretta for her dedication to the outstanding performance of her duties during her tenure. Whereas this proclamation is presented to Margaretta to serve as a reminder that although she is retiring, she will always be remembered as a valued employee dedicated to both her position and our community. Now therefore, I, Sharon L. Rochelle, Director of Pitt County Social Services, and on behalf of our governing board and the citizens of Pitt County, do hereby present this proclamation to Margaretta M. Howard as a testimonial to the faithful and dedicated services which she has performed for the past 31 years, with our very best wishes and continued success and happiness in the future.
We also have one more new employee on the list, Sheena Harrell.
Okay, Sheena? See, Sheena, we saved the best for last.
I'm Sheena Harrell. I'm coming from Berkshire County Social Services in the Permanency Planning Unit.
Wonderful.
Thank you, welcome.
Welcome aboard. All right. Next, we have our items for report. Ms. Howard, back in the spotlight.
Apparently so. First, I want to thank the citizens of Pitt County, the administration, and all of my DSS family for all the support and encouragement that I've received over the last 31 years. It has truly been an honor, a pleasure, and a joy to work for Pitt County DSS. Thank you.
Thank you.
Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about the Medicaid unwinding process and expansion and what this means for Pitt County. A little bit of technical difficulty here. Okay. If you'll go to page 3 where it says the Pitt County Medicaid beneficiaries, if you'll notice that in July of 2014, we had 30,491 recipients of Medicaid in Pitt County. 5 years later, July of 2019, we had 40,431. Now, July 2023, we have 56,291 recipients of Medicaid in Pitt County. We're talking an increase of about 26,000 people in about 9 years. That's a lot of growth and a lot of cases that are being worked up by current staff in the redetermination section. If you go to the next slide here. We currently have 3 scenarios that are going on in the redetermination section: pre-COVID, COVID, and post-COVID policy. Pre-COVID policy was basically our regular Medicaid rules that the state governs, and we basically enforce what they tell us to do. COVID was an adjusted policy which allowed for more individuals to be eligible for Medicaid, and no one was terminated except for 4 reasons, and I've listed the 4 reasons. You had death, moved out of state, no longer meeting citizenship, immigration guidelines, or a beneficiary voluntarily requesting that their case be terminated. Post-COVID, which is where we are now, if there is a request to terminate a case, you cannot accept a verbal request. You have to have it in writing, or a specific form has to be completed, or a written statement received from a beneficiary that has to be returned to the agency. If nothing is received, we have to keep that case ongoing and active until the next review. So the way we do business now is not, I'm not going to say as simple as it was before, but there are a lot more complex steps that we have to do now before we can take just the simple actions on a case, which of course, once again, is going to take additional time by staff to complete and follow. Beginning January, and hold on 1 minute, I'm trying to click here and go at the same time. Beginning January of 2024, the state will begin reviewing Medicaid cases to determine if they are being completed accurately and timely. This is called the Recipient Eligibility Determination Audit, better known as the RETA audit. Each month for 12 months, the state will pull a predetermined number of cases to review. If there are incorrect cases, these could be charged back to the county. And if you think about it in terms of payback, we all know that a heart transplant or a heart surgery is extremely expensive. So if that case is not worked up correctly, imagine that coming back to the county and us having to reimburse the state. That could be pretty costly. Barriers and challenges. Staffing. Pitt County grew, but staffing did not. This is the only DSS I have ever worked at, and I can honestly say that the number of staff that you currently have is very similar to the staffing numbers of when I began 31 years ago. But Pitt County in itself has grown extremely in the last 31 years, and we're continuing to expand. So we didn't keep up the way we should have kept up, and now it's a rush to catch up, which is a problem. Then we have the retention and training. Current employees in economic services average about 3 to 4 years of employment. Therefore, they do not know pre-COVID policy, meaning they're going to have to learn pre-COVID policy and post-COVID policy, which there in itself lies another problem because they're unfamiliar with the way we did business prior to COVID. Result, it slows down the processing of completing reviews, meaning a delay in benefits to our customers, the people that we're here to serve. I have a solution. To improve a better work-life balance, we need to hire additional staff. That goes without saying. Right now, my staff is working sometimes from 7 o'clock in the morning or 7:30 in the morning to 7 o'clock at night. And then once a month, they come in and they work from 6 a.m. to 12 on Saturdays. That's a lot of time. Now, we've had a job fair at the Ag Center. My proposal would be that we have the NC Fast classes that are being taught at Pitt Community College. Why not partner with Pitt Community College to have more open job fairs there as well? That way, the people who are interested in taking a class get a firsthand testimony from us who've worked in it for a while of exactly what it's like to work for Pitt County DSS. And that concludes my presentation. Are there any questions?
So the solution page,
Yes, ma'am.
it sounds like what you're saying, I just want to make sure I'm correctly understanding it, is that you have the positions available, you just don't have, you're not finding the people to fill them because you're not going to the right pool of people to fill them. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Well, we do need positions.
Okay.
We need a lot more positions, especially with the onset of Medicaid expansion at some point. The current staff that we have cannot maintain what they do have right now. So if you're adding additional cases for them to maintain, they're not going to be able to.
Right.
Right now, with our special assistance program, the state has taken off the lift of the waivers and the caps on those programs, which means anybody can apply for special assistance. The same thing with our CAP, or our Community Alternative Program. I call it the top hats, they've been lifted. So we've got an onslaught of people who are applying for those programs as well. We just don't have the staff here at Pitt DSS to maintain. We need positions yesterday.
So your solution is really twofold: add extra positions and recruit in a
Yes,
spot
ma'am.
that is plenty full of people to fill them.
I believe so. Yes, ma'am.
Is there a plan in place to consider adding?
Well, when we did this year's budget, we were told that we could not add any new positions until all of our vacancies were filled. We'll talk a little bit about where we stand with our vacancies, but I think in addition to being able to kind of cast that net out there and using some social media sites to be able to find more people that would be willing to apply, because I think right now we just use the county website, and so some folks don't even know that there's a job posting there. And so I think we need to be more considerate of getting the word out there than what we've been doing for a long time, and to be able to let people know that jobs do exist. I think the other thing that I've talked about is that we do some recruitment in the area high schools, because not every high school student may want to go to college, and they can actually come, as a high school graduate, come out of high school and actually start a position. And I would like to be able to do some kind of a stipend or intern program for them, but I think at least being able to get the word out that you could actually start in a government position where you're going to get retirement and benefits. If you're not cut out, or that your choice isn't to start college or go that route, you've got another alternative. And so I think being able to reach that population, I think we've not even gone there yet, and I think that's going to be a huge thing for us, and give them a little taste for what it's like.
Okay. And then my last question is, if you were able to partner with PCC, how often would you recommend you guys having job fairs over there?
At least quarterly would be a good start.
Okay.
See exactly what type of interest that we have, how many people are actually interested, and do a testing, so to speak. And if necessary, do it monthly.
And Margaretta, when we spoke yesterday, you said there was some kind of reimbursement if people were taking the NC Fast training. I think you said, and maybe that doesn't exist anymore, but where the county was paying for them to be able to take
Correct.
that, to have them come to work for us.
Well, I think the class is about $135. There are 2 phases to it. And for those people who were interested, they called in. And we actually did pay for them to attend the class. Now, of course, there's no guarantee of employment, but it gave them a better opportunity to ask questions about the NC Fast, which is the computer web-based program that we use. And I believe, and from that pool of people that did apply and take the class, I have hired quite a few, because they were very good applicants.
Okay.
And I'd also just like to mention again, if you think about initially when I said that we have about 56,000 Medicaid recipients that have to be reviewed by May 31st, I have 27 employees to review 56,000 people. That's a lot of people, and very few employees. I don't want to burn out what we have. We've got good staff right now. We've got excellent staff. But we're going to run the risk of that.
And Margaretta, could you speak to the current situation in the long-term care Medicaid portion that you?
Okay.
Yeah. I just want to put our cards on the table and let
Okay.
people know what you've been experiencing, so.
I am also the program manager over the long-term care section, which includes the special assistance and CAP program. And CAP, once again, is the Community Alternative Program. When fully staffed, we have 6 employees in that section. 6. Now, they have beneficiaries who may be in nursing homes in Pitt County. They could be in nursing homes all over North Carolina. But because of residency sake, we have to maintain their cases. But I have currently 2 full-time people who are managing those programs. 2 additional people are in training to manage those programs. But I have also 2 vacancies. And those particular positions, I think, have been advertised and re-advertised about 4 times now to try to get suitable applicants so that we could train them as well. But we're having difficulty with that. So I have now retained employment with the approval, of course, of Ms. Rochelle. I've got contract workers, I have Vanguard, I have retirees who have worked in that program before, who are actually working to help us. And for the current staff, the 2 individuals who are fully trained, they're working at night. I have a supervisor who actually works as a caseworker. And I share with her my concern because she was texting, or not texting, but emailing a client back and forth, because very persistent client, understandably so. They were emailing each other back and forth at 11:45 at night. And she got up the next morning and came into work, and she lives down in Aurora. So there's a lot of need in that particular section.
And so, Margaretta, when somebody is receiving long-term care Medicaid and is currently in a nursing home setting or waiting to go into one, if the Medicaid isn't approved in a timely manner, that interferes with that process. Is that correct?
It does, because with long-term care, we're looking at income, we're looking at resources. If we're not able to touch your case timely and there are transfers of assets involved, if there's opportunity for you to reduce those assets, if it's not done timely, it could mean a delay in your bill at the nursing home being paid. So that poses a problem. It's a health concern because although the nursing homes we've not had anyone to be put out per se that we know of. We have had threats or promises from nursing homes that if we don't process cases that, their residents were going to be displaced. So of course, we want to do all that we can to get the cases worked, but our hands are tied.
So, Margaretta, tell me about these employees that are working 12-hour days and then once per Saturday from 6. Are these people exempt?
No.
So we're paying all this overtime
Yes, we are.
and we can't do comp time?
They've maxed out the comp time limits.
Wow.
They don't take off. They're here, Monday through Friday, day in and day out.
So that's a concern.
Yes.
Overworking people. My other question, it revolves around the increase over the last 9 years. So what do you attribute the 56,000 recipients, the big increase?
Well, during COVID, a lot of the rules, the Medicaid rules were relaxed, and more people became eligible. But then you have to look at the economics. The income levels went up, but then you have to look at the economics of the county and exactly what salaries and pay is in this county. Basically, if the pay is of such that it qualifies or makes a person more eligible, of course they're going to receive benefits.
So will Medicaid expansion make this number higher?
Yes, no doubt, it will.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for all y'all are doing. That's incredible.
Yep, it's a good presentation, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? So I'm going to turn it over to Brian Averett.
Thanks, Margaretta.
You're welcome.
Good afternoon. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Medicaid expansion piece. And on this screen, you see the potential implementation start dates for Medicaid expansion. These start dates are contingent on the General Assembly's passing the fiscal year 23-24 budget. Medicaid expansion is tied to the state budget vote, and so depending on when that happens will determine when the state rolls out the implementation for Medicaid expansion. And if you read in the news yesterday, it looks like it may or it may not occur October 1st. It may be later based on what we've been reading. These are figures showing the increased number of Medicaid beneficiaries in Pitt County due to Medicaid expansion. In the first year, the projected number is 10,025. In the second year, an additional 2,841. Now, the third bullet, that number is individuals who are already receiving Medicaid, most of them in the family planning category of Medicaid. And the state is advising that they should have a way to electronically convert a lot of those cases to full Medicaid without those individuals having to actually make a Medicaid application. That would be a good thing. The remainder, about 4,182 or so, would likely have to make an application and apply. But for that other group, 5843, their information has already been verified and their income levels, so they could be converted over. But all of the cases from the point they start would have to have a redetermination done within 12 months. So further down the road is when the larger numbers of processing in terms of redeterminations would happen. We have projected, based on these numbers, that the additional staffing needs for intake would be 10 additional income maintenance caseworker 2s and 2 income maintenance supervisor 2s. For the redetermination area, 20 income maintenance caseworker 2s, and that would give, based on the projected figures, that would give each caseworker for review approximately 635 ongoing cases, and most of those cases would be reviewed once every 12 months. 3 income maintenance supervisor 2s in the area of redetermination, and then 5 floater income maintenance caseworker 2s. With the volume of work that it would be undertaken, we need to have some positions that can assist when positions are vacant, so we can continue operations and keep the work process timely. When employees are out on extended leave, those folks would be trained. They would be used year round, but we could put them in whatever area we needed to when vacancies occur and keep the work moving. Our initial request is for 10 income maintenance caseworker 2s and 2 income maintenance supervisor 2s, so we can go ahead and start the onboarding and training process. We would like to have the individuals, initially they would be working with applications, but we would also like for them to have training in the redetermination area in the Medicaid program, so that staff that's already in place and trained, when those reviews are coming due 12 months from now or 15 months from now, we already have staff that are capable of conducting the redeterminations. The estimated cost of computer equipment for each of the employees is approximately $3,000 per employee. Pitt County has received advanced funding from the state of North Carolina based on what the federal government is going to provide to the state, and the amount received at this point is $643,215. That can be used for unwinding activities and expansion activities. And that money was for the months of May of 2023 through September of 2024. Going forward, the projected monthly Medicaid expansion funding, beginning with implementation whenever that begins for Pitt County, is $31,899 a month. That would be additional money. This is money that's an additional to what we have already budgeted locally for our current staff. And then the federal share would either be 50 or 75%. Now it gets more complicated there because some program areas are 50% in Medicaid, some are 75%. But at minimum, if we just said a 50% share and no 75% involved, that would be another $573,114 for the months from October through June of next year. So this is sort of an overview of what's to come, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
So Brian, with, I think the initial 10 IMC2s and 2 IM supervisors, that's 12, that's a lot of people.
Yes.
Is there a plan to maybe do some bulk recruiting events? How do you plan on attacking?
Well, once there's approval for the positions, we could definitely do recruiting for those, once we get approval for that. And as Ms. Howard said previously, we are still getting applicants who are taking the NC Fast courses. It's offered at the other community colleges in the area as well. We've hired many from Pitt Community College, but we've hired some from the other community colleges that have had those. The caseworker 2 positions, we can hire an individual who qualifies. If we don't have ones that already qualify as 2s and already have work experience in the area, we can hire what's referred to as a work against for 12 months, and they're hired as an income maintenance caseworker 1 working against the 2 position. They're paid as an income maintenance caseworker 1, and then after 12 months, they move to the income maintenance caseworker 2 pay. So we can recruit people that have not actually done the caseworker job before in a DSS. The positions we're having the most difficulty filling, as Ms. Howard mentioned, are the income maintenance caseworker 3 positions, which are the long-term care areas, which that area is, the work is more complicated, it's more involved. That's why it's a caseworker 3 level.
Any questions?
I have one. Brian,
Yes.
sort of for the general public to understand, can you tell us what changed in terms of the qualifications for a Medicaid recipient?
Okay. The income limit is being increased for Medicaid. Individuals who previously had to meet a disability definition, that would be individuals previously before Medicaid expansion and what the policy is right now. If you are between the ages of 18 and 64 and you are not a caretaker for a dependent child, to receive Medicaid as an individual, you would have to meet a disability requirement. So Medicaid expansion lifts the disability requirement, and then the income limit for the Medicaid program is being raised. So a lot of people that might have met the income limit previously but couldn't meet the disability requirement will be able to participate in the program.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Next, we have vacancy update, Ms. Black.
Hello. So, as Brian and Margaretta have talked about vacancies, we have vacancies all over the agency. As Ms. Rochelle stated back in previous budget, we were told we couldn't get new positions until we had filled all our vacancies. Back then, we had 64 vacancies across different areas within DSS. Majority of it was in economic services, which was 26 vacancies, and child welfare was second with 21 vacancies. For our new fiscal year, we are down to 46 vacancies, and as of August the 4th, we got down to 40 vacancies. We have 4 new employees starting this month. We have 1 in child welfare and 1 in family services, and then we have 2 starting in admin and fiscal. So we do have 1 employee that's going to be promoted from economic services to family support. So we are working on our vacancies. But we still have a little bit to go. Any questions on that?
Can you summarize, you said you did have 26 in economic and 21 in child welfare, and so where are you now with, I didn't do all the math, but you.
So in economic services, we had 26, we're down to 10 vacancies now. In child welfare, we had 21, we're down to 17. In family support, we had 4 vacancies, we're down to 2. And in adult services, we had 8 vacancies in the beginning, and looks like now we're up to 10 vacancies.
I mean, we heard a bunch of new hires that are from surrounding counties, and I think I talked about this at last month's meeting. Do we feel like that's a trend? Do we
It's
feel like we're
becoming one.
winning at home? Are we attracting talent at home? You have to win at home.
We are not, and I think part of that is, as Ms. Rochelle stated, we post on the county website. A lot of people in this generation do not look on the county website. It's not thought of. They're looking on Indeed, they're looking on ZipRecruiter, they're looking on Facebook, Marketplace, and other places with, they're networking, but they're not, unless you have a family member that's been here, like Margarita, for 31 years saying, hey, DSS has some jobs to, a niece or nephew or a grandchild or somebody, they're just not looking on the county website.
Yeah, I don't think I heard anyone say they were from Pitt County, did they? Okay. Any questions?
No.
Thank you, Ms. Black.
Thank you.
Next, we have the director's report.
Ashley, did you want to report on the board member search?
Sure.
That's all right.
The second posting closed on August the 3rd. There was one applicant. The Social Services Commission will meet in September, and as soon as they have met, Gwendolyn Waller will send me the information of the approval with hopefully an a October start date.
When do they meet in September?
She didn't give me the date.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Director?
Sure. So, well, I have some really great news, but the most wonderful news is that my our deputy director, will be starting, Nikki Mears, on next Monday, on August the 14th. And so I plan on spending at least the first 2 weeks just kind of onboarding her. I think she started her social work experience here in Pitt County, so she's very familiar with a lot of people already. And so it's just really kind of getting her updated, getting her situated, make sure she has her computer and all those things, and then really spending time with all the program managers just to learn, where they're at, what they need help with, and what they excel at. So, but I'm really looking forward to help. Social Services Institute took place August 2nd to the 4th. It was very informative. I'll just kind of go over some of the highlights that I thought were, very positive going forward. So one of the bills that the Senate, it's Senate Bill 20, approved, is that we will finally have funding for relative placements, for unlicensed relative placements. So if we have a child who cannot stay with their parent for some reason, and we have a relative that steps forward that will bring the child into their home, we can now provide some reimbursement for them, where we have not been able to do that in the past. It has to be related by blood, so the whole idea of fictive kin, maybe like a neighbor or a teacher or somebody who's not related to the child who would step up would not be able to have this funding. So they'll receive half of the foster care board rate, and then that portion of the board rate, half of it will be picked up by the state, and the other half will be local share. So we're finally able to support them in some way that we've not really been able to do that previously. So that's a good thing. And I'm hoping that maybe next year they'll look at also supporting the fictive kin in the same way, because children just usually have better outcomes when they're with family than in a, I hate to say stranger foster home, but with people that they don't know. I spent a great deal of time in the workforce development portion of the Social Services Institute, so I'm so excited about this. So they're bringing back the Child Welfare Education Collaborative, which is a stipend that they will pay social work students at 3 colleges, universities, one of which is ECU. So I'm thrilled. And that will be reinstated in fall of 2024. And I'm meeting with the head of the social work department just to talk a little bit about that, but then also just how we can work together better and be more collaborative. So I'm head over heels that that's going to take place again. The state has already implemented this, but not in Pitt County. They've redesigned their pre-service. So when a social worker would come on board, they would have to have currently at least 2 weeks of implementation training or onboarding. Now, what they've done is they've picked certain counties within the state that they're calling innovation zones, and they're actually changing that 2 weeks of training to 6 weeks of training. And there's also pre-work learning modules for them. So they're just going to review, it'll be 6 weeks in total, but there's also some individual learning through online modules. So they're parts of what the learning labs will be is interviewing skills, diversity, equity, and inclusion, the Indian Child Welfare Act, engaging families through family-centered learning. And so it's more, they're going to learn those activities, but they're also going to be able to practice. And then the supervisors will be able to give them feedback and the opportunity to do the same thing back at the county. So I think even though it's going to take more time initially to get new workers up to speed, I think it's going to pay off dividends in the long run because they'll be so much more prepared to do the job and then hopefully stay with us. So the other thing they talked about with that is the use of social media ads, and their recommendation to counties with vacancies is to be able to use social media ads to be able to bring new applicants in. They gave the example of one of the ads that were put out from one of the counties. They weren't specific, but they said just one ad alone had 32 million hits. And so I think by expanding our audience, I think is going to make a huge difference. And what's been happening is either we get some applicants, but either they're not qualified or there's not a good selection. I'll just put it that way. The people we've gotten from other counties has really made a difference because they don't have to go through the whole onboarding and pre-service process. They can just get started. But I don't think we can depend on that forever. I think being able to put out the word that we do have vacancies and we're a great place to work is really going to, enhance our vacancy rates. And I would like the whole idea of having a pool, as Brian suggested, I think is a great idea because instead of constantly trying to rehire people that do leave, you've got some people that you can depend on to reach out to. So, and the final thing is North Carolina is going to have a standardized children welfare and information system. So currently what occurs is there's 100 counties, and every county has a different system that they track their child welfare. And so the state is implementing this. They've already started in some of those innovation zones that I talked about before, but Pitt County is expected to be part of that by the first quarter of 2024, and I'm really looking forward to that because it'll be standardized. You'll be able to go in, you can pull your data from that. You're going to have logs that are consistent, and that every county is going to be doing it the same way. It's just going to be very helpful. I think also for our state representatives, give them an opportunity to be able to see more. We have to give them permission to be able to use our current systems, and so this way they'll have access to that just to be able to provide more support for us and oversight. So very excited about that. And that's the end of my report. Unless anybody has any questions.
Any questions?
No, it's very thorough.
Oh,
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, board member comments?
I'll just say it was not necessarily eye-opening because I don't think it was a surprise that we absolutely need more positions. And if the main barrier to getting more positions is filling the ones we have, I'm very much on board with you following some of your really good ideas for recruitment. I've worked with social work students who have applied to DSS and have sat with them to go through the application because it is not intuitive on the website. It is not common sense to find that application and get it filled out and submitted. So it needs to be an easier access. And I love the idea of communicating with the high schools. I've said before, you're in a really amazing position because Pitt County Schools is 2 floors up. Both of the floors on top of us, 3rd and 4th. And, you know, they've got an amazing career and technical education program in Pitt County Schools. And Tradesformers, you know, is already working with multiple businesses in the area to move students from high school into apprenticeships straight into jobs. And to have DSS become one of those businesses would be incredible. So hopefully you can utilize this amazing gift of being right here in the same building with Pitt County Schools and develop those relationships.
Wonderful suggestions. Thank you.
Absolutely. I want to thank the staff and their wonderful presentations. They're very informative, to the point, can educate us and the community, so thank you.
Yes, I would like to thank the staff as well. I mean, we heard some harsh realities today, so I feel like we need to start thinking about the way we do business going forward. So thank you for the presentations. All right, if there's nothing else, I'd like a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.